Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Metzia, page 118. B, part 2. With the words Amar Abaya, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon, etc. Abaya said, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and Rabbi Shimon all hold that wherever the sages gave someone permission to perform an action, and in performing this action he causes damage, he is exempt from payment. The Gemara cites the sources for this assertion. It is clear that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion, based on that which we just said, it is clear that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is of that opinion, as we learned in the Mishnah. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, one may even prepare his work 30 days beforehand. It is clear that Rabbi Shimon is of that opinion, as we learned in a Mishnah, Bava 20b. If one was setting up an oven in the upper story, there must be a plaster floor beneath it, which serves as the ceiling of the lower story, at least 3 handbreadths thick, so that the ceiling below does not burn. And in the case of a stove, the plaster floor must be at least 1 handbreadth thick. And if he causes damage after having taken the necessary precautions, he pays compensation for that which he damaged. Rabbi Shimon says, the sages said all of these measurements to teach only that if he causes damage, he is exempt from paying, as he took all reasonable precautions. The sages taught, once the stone cutter has delivered the stones to the chiseler, from that point on, the chiseler is liable for any damage caused by them. Once the chiseler has delivered the stones to the donkey driver to transport them, the donkey driver is liable. Once the donkey driver has delivered the stones to a porter to carry them to the building site, the porter is liable. Once the porter has delivered the stones to the builder is liable. Once the builder has delivered them to the master builder, who places and straightens the stones on the structure, the master builder is liable. And if he placed a stone upon the row of stones and the stone fell off and caused damage, then they are all liable to pay. The Gemara asks, is it taught in Braita that only the last one, the master builder, is liable, and all of them are exempt? The Gemara answers, this is not difficult, as the ruling here in this Braita is stated with regard to a case of hiring, and therefore only the last one is liable, whereas the ruling there, in that Braita is stated with regard to a case of contracting, in which they all agreed to perform the work together, and therefore they are all liable to pay. New Mishnah. In the case of 2 gardens that were located one above another, in other words, a garden on a plateau that borders another garden below, and vegetables grew in between, out of the wall of soil, resulting from the difference in height between the 2 gardens, Rabbi Meir says these vegetables belong to the owner of the upper garden. Rabbi Yehuda says they belong to the owner of the lower garden, lower one. Rabbi Meir said, in explanation of his ruling, if the owner of the upper garden would want to dig and take his dirt and does so, no vegetables would grow there, as that wall made of soil would not exist. The vegetables therefore belong to him. In response, Rabbi Yehuda said, if the owner of the lower garden would want to fill his garden with dirt and does so, thereby raising its level, no vegetables would grow there. as that wall, and so it would not exist. So the vegetables therefore belong to him. Rabbi Meir said, since the two of them can object to each other, as they each have the ability to prevent the vegetable growth, nothing can be decided based on such considerations. Instead, the court considers from where this vegetable lives and derives nourishment, whether from above or from below. Rabbi Shimon said, any vegetables that the owner of the upper garden can stretch out his hand, take, those vegetables are his, and the rest belong to the owner of the lower garden. Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava says, with regard to the root of the vegetable growing out of the wall of soil, everyone agrees that it is the property of the owner of the upper garden, since the ground belongs to him. When they disagree, it is with regard to its leaves, which grow above the airspace of the lower garden. Rabbi Meir holds, cast its leaves after its root, and consider that they too belong to the owner of the upper garden. Rabbi Yehuda holds, we do not say, cast its leaves after its root. The Gemara comments, and they follow their line of reasoning as it is taught in a brayta with regard to a tree belonging to one individual that grew on land owned by another, that which sprouts from the trunk and from the roots, these belong to the owner of the land. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, that which sprouts from the trunk belongs to the owner of the tree, and anything that grows from the roots belongs to the owner of the land. This statement demonstrates that according to Rabbi Yehuda, ownership of the sprouts is not determined exclusively based on the ownership of the roots.